I'd like to call to order this planning and zoning meeting of East Granby, Connecticut on November 12th, 2024. Today we have alternate members Ryan Ray, Brian Kleinman, and Austin Jelaine. First we have myself, Tom Derlinga, David Bassard, Brian O'Connor, Jay Tran, and John Welsh. We are missing today Todd Zisson, and Ryan will be filling in for Todd today. So the first order of business is a public hearing on 2411. 2411 is the Corbett Land Strategies Incorporated application for text amendment to section 5A4J and 5A4K to the special permit uses in the business zone. J is truck parking, K is self-storage units. Can I get a motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Okay. Are they here today?
They're on Zoom.
Oh. Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
Very good.
Very good.
How about yourselves?
Good.
Excellent. I do have some slides that I can run through, and can share those if you don't mind.
Sure.
Let me share it.
I just need to get sharing privileges.
All right, you should be able to share now.
Fantastic. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that screen. So thanks everyone for tonight. We've been working with Robin for a few months, and we've been in front of the commission with an informal meeting. My name is Nick Wood. I'm with Corbett Land Strategies. We're a land use planning firm that works with Parkett Enterprise on projects up in Ontario. Parkett Enterprise has properties also throughout the states, and tonight's presentation I'll try to make as brief as possible. Just really we want to kind of highlight where our head is at, I think, more or less with this text amendment. Tonight's presentation, I'll briefly touch on the subject property, which I'm sure you are all well and familiar with. Talk a little bit about the as of right permissions from the zoning. Talk about the proposal, as well as the amendments that we made and the resubmission that we undertook most recently. Leave you with some justification and some rationale on the proposal, and then our concluding thoughts. So again, we're just really touching on what I think the commission is well aware of, but nonetheless, the property is located at 3 International Drive, at the intersection of Rainbow Road and International Drive, or Highway 20 or Rainbow Road. It's approximately 5.5 acres in size. It's currently occupied by commercial parking, with the surrounding uses consist, as you can see, industrial, including manufacturing, distribution, as well as the Bradley International Airport is located in close proximity. There's residential to the south and east of the property along Larch Drive, but that's screened by some existing vegetation as well. The existing zoning is the property zone business, which is one of of one of the few properties that are zoned business. Permitted uses include office, retail, manufacturing, and type B drive-through. Special permit uses include, as noted in the presentation, automotive sales, automotive service or repairs, and then drive-through establishments. As noted by at the onset of the meeting, we are working with Parkit to introduce 2 new uses to the subject property. And those are obviously truck parking and self-storage uses. Now, the concept plan in front of you has been prepared to support and kind of illustrate a layout of the site. And we've taken in consideration some of the feedback that we got back at the informal meeting, as well as some additional comments that we've subsequently received since that time. So as you can see, we've proposed to have the self-storage closer to the Rainbow Road. And the idea behind that is to screen the parking as much as possible, because that's one of the main comments that we heard back from the informal meeting and comments that we've subsequently received. So in this plan, we're setting the parking back by approximately 180 feet. The proposed truck parking is going to be utilized by both heavy transport trucks as well as, and more likely, cube vans. And we've got about I think just shy of 200 spaces on the site, depending on the configuration of cube van or transport trailer. Accesses would remain as existing, with all of the accesses coming off of International Drive and nothing being proposed off of Rainbow Road. And the infrastructure would largely remain the same as existing on site today, given that it's a commercial parking lot. A couple of the renderings that we've had prepared, again, just to illustrate how the site could operate. Again, the idea of the application is to modernize the site as much as possible and to expand, obviously, the tenancy opportunities that are available to it. But generally, given that it's an existing commercial parking lot, it would just remain very similar to as its function, but with the added improvement of additional landscaping and screening. Now, this concept obviously has the self-storage building closer to the front to, again, screen. However, the landscaping that is being proposed would continue with the site regardless. If it's just truck parking, that would be brought forward as well. So, and these renderings illustrate, in this view right in front of the commission, includes the fence, some landscaping. What we've also introduced through the revisions to our text amendment is also the requirement for a 20-foot buffer from Rainbow Road, and then in addition, that would have to include plantings like evergreen trees and the size that they can get to. This plan just compares the 2 plans that the commission would have seen at our informal meeting, as well as what you are seeing today. Again, the introduction of the 20-foot landscape buffer is a central feature to the revised plan, which will include that berm, fencing, and plantings like Everclear. As well, access, as mentioned, would remain the same. Parking is set back by 180 feet, and overall landscaping would be improved on site than what is existing today. Again, this is in response to comments that we've received over the review of the application. So as mentioned, the application was initially scheduled to be presented at the October Planning Commission, but subsequent to receiving the planning comments, we wanted to have some further analysis and update the application to kind of respond to the comments that we've heard. We note that obviously the changes that we propose through our application have a bigger and broader impact to other properties that are a similarly zoned business. So we wanted to respond to that, and we've adjusted the language around the permission of these uses to attempt to try to limit their applicability really to only our property. For the truck parking in particularly, we're proposing to permit the uses, for property zone business within 1,000 feet of the Bradley International Airport. And from our perspective, given our proximity to the airport, that reduces the number of properties that permission would be applicable for. Similarly, we would attempt, we were proposing to add language around that landscape buffer, solidifying it at 25 feet, solidifying the fact that a berm would be required as well as plantings, including evergreen. Further, that the use be permitted only subject to the architectural standards for buildings, landscaping, site location, to the satisfaction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Because as mentioned and as noted in the planning comments received, a special permit application would be required, and therefore we would be back, obviously, presenting a concept to you, hopefully in short order, depending, subject to the approval or decision of the Planning Commission. So, similarly, the berm or buffer area and architectural standards provisions for self-storage uses would also be applied for self-storage uses. So as it pertains to the proposal, we just want to highlight a few pieces as far as what we're looking at as far as justifying this application. The CRCOG has submitted comments identifying no conflicts with the proposed uses. The revised application in particularly has been prepared to include text which attempts to ensure that the uses cannot be replicated on other similarly zoned properties, obviously without going through a text amendment application. The subject lands, as mentioned, are currently occupied with the parking lot, and the proposal is really seeking to modernize and introduce improved screening and landscaping from Highway 20. The use of the subject lands for truck parking in particularly would not necessitate new infrastructure, and the existing accesses can remain without change. In the mind really of Parkit Enterprise, this truck parking is looked at as a short-term use. Their long-term vision, I think, would be to introduce more intensified development, likely to be more aligned with I think East Granby's vision for the area, which would be subject to market conditions and the timing associated with that. Excuse me. Based on what we've observed from the surrounding area, there has been an exponential rise in commercial and industrial traffic, which would benefit from the additional offsite parking for the nearby businesses around the property. Further, that the subject land's proximity to the airport and other nearby major transportation corridors make these lands ideal for the truck parking itself. Excuse me. And that the proliferation of the on-demand online shopping is really pushing the uses like what we've envisioned for this site, and specifically devoted to delivery vehicles for the movement of goods. And that's only going to increase with the intensification of these surrounding communities, and we're seeing that elsewhere as well. So in conclusion, this application for the text amendment is to add the truck parking and self-storage, is to broaden the tenancy opportunities for the subject lands and for Parkit. And we think, given that it's an existing commercial property, and the improved landscaping seeks to respect the plan function for the zoning category. Excuse me. We think that the uses meet the needs of the community, both from an emerging perspective, which accommodates online and time-sensitive merchandise transport, and that the addition of self-storage itself would actually increase with accommodating that increasing storage need for multifamily housing. And then, subject to the Commission's decision on the text amendment, a special permit application would be advanced in support of the proposed uses, and the resolution of those additional provisions attached to both uses would be achieved through that application. We greatly appreciate the Commission's time and consideration for this application, and wish that it will consider it for approval. And if the Commission has any questions or comments, myself and Carrie, the property owner, are available to answer any questions you may have. So, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
You mentioned that this concept of the truck parking is considered temporary in your mind. What do you mean by that? How long are you planning on keeping it temporary, and what were your plans down the line for that parcel?
So I think it's really more short term than temporary. I don't think there's a time frame attached.
You can short term.
What sorry, my apologies, I missed
What
that.
do you consider short term?
That's a I would I don't know, carry probably
All right.
5.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think a bigger issue with this is the other parcels, and we've had issues with spot regulations in the past, and making a regulation specific to a property is typically not advised. I think is like, I forget what you call it. Is it spot regulating?
It could be.
Something like that. So just I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, just the things that come to mind as I was reading this and listening to your presentation. Some of the things that that kind of came to mind. There are definitely some other properties that are this.
So Tom, by spot regulate, are you talking about the 1,000 feet from Bradley?
Yes,
Could be an
precisely.
issue.
Yeah,
Because
it's the only one that's. It's not an
There's
issue.
2 properties across the street that are zoned base, so it wouldn't be spot zoning because it's
Okay.
applicable to all of the properties that are adjacent to Bradley, and there's more than one.
Oh, I thought there was only one in that. So,
No, but it will not be applicable to the Route 189 properties,
right.
which was one of the concerns that was expressed by the commission when they came in, that particular area was something that obviously you guys would not want to see truck parking, which is why they added the limiting language to the text.
Okay. Yep. I thought that was the only one.
which would then make this the sole property that would be bidding under the proposed regulation change.
Right.
And I just would comment by saying that we need to not look at what we're looking at here. This is only a concept plan. What we're looking at is whether or not we're going to allow in the business zone truck parking and self-storage.
Right.
And if I look at the comments of staff, which I'm sure Robin will get into fairly soon, I think I echo some of my concerns. Is this a use that you want to have in the business zone? Is it what you want to have on Rainbow Road? I know I've called it the gateway of East Granby, and people laugh when I say that, but it's still the gateway of East Granby. Other concerns I would have would be the separation distance from the residentially zoned properties on March Drive.
Yes, that's
To have
definitely
this type of use be that close to existing residential zoned property, not just zoned property, but residences.
residents. Yeah.
Also, another concern I would have would be that this property is adjacent to the what we call the Gibbs property, which is the Phillips 66 that everyone might know. When they did their expansion of it, one of the things that they did, and one of the things that the commission insisted upon, was that the design, the expansion fit the village center architectural design guidelines, which they complied with. So you've got, you know, for a gas station, it's a nice building.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be my comment to that. So, you know, if you said, sure, we can look at this as a use, then the comment I have is really,
No, here you go.
you know, and yes, the property's been used for, you know, for airport parking has been, I don't know how far back that goes. Our zoning regulations go back to 56. I'm sure that Z parking didn't show up until, it wasn't even Z parking. What was it
It
originally?
was something else. We approved it.
Yeah. Well, we approved the change
The
to it,
change.
right?
Yeah.
We did not approve the change to it when it came for access. They came forth to us on that. But my point being that it has been a parking facility predating anyone on the current commission, and it's not you know, as it is, was not a desired use, but was there. And to sit there and say, yeah, now we're going to change that use in a business zone and we're going to allow proposed truck parking when we have in our Commerce Park B, we have plenty of available properties which are zone Commerce Park B and which under their regulations would allow for proposed truck parking. So to suggest that there's a need for truck parking in our community, I don't see that. So and I certainly don't see it in a business zone location. I'm not specific to this, but in any business zone property in our community.
The residential is definitely a bit of an issue too. So we heard from, even when it wasn't even in our town, we heard from everybody just moving the trucks around in at the Dollar Distribution Center, which is right next to a couple of residences in Windsor and East Granby. So,
and just to comment on your question, Tom, as to could we make some sort of temporary, and the answer to that would be no. Once you've changed the regulation.
oh, I realize that.
Forget about where, once you've changed the regulation, allow for that. And
I realize that. I was just sort of wondering
it's
if this
there.
was an interim plan for something that was already, you know, not so much in existence already, but was something that was already on their mind, that they needed to hold this over because of something else that was happening.
So truck parking is allowed in Commerce Park
B, as well as storage units.
but not in A.
Not truck
Okay.
parking, I don't think, in Commerce Park A.
Self-storage, we allow
Self-storage,
though
right.
in the Commerce Park.
Transition zone, we
Transition
have
zone,
self-storage. We just added that recently.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I was just looking at regulations, planning and zoning regulations for other towns adjacent to us, and most, if not, like, I don't think any of them have truck parking or self-storage facilities in the business district. And I understand that this is near like the industrial kind of region of our town, but I don't know. I think even if we did add self-storage facility into this zone, we would probably need to, Robin, I think you brought this up before. We talked about it before in the last meeting that it just need to be subject to like a list of requirements if it were to be allowed. But yeah, that's kind of the only comment that I have.
That would be it, and if so, the south and eastern areas on Clark and the existing residential, those I think there should be more of a setback with berms, obviously a fence, some kind of tree line for a buffer, but it looks very narrow in those areas based on this plan.
Anybody else from the commission have the
How close is this to the existing self-storage facility we just had built here
one on
behind?
behind Gateway? It's about a mile, maybe.
That much?
Probably more than that.
No,
No?
I think less than a mile.
a mile works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much more than a mile. If you go right down, go down East International, take the
Oh,
first
if you,
right.
I was thinking going
Go
down
in
20
that
and
way.
turning, but yeah, if you go the other,
It's
yeah.
a back way right in there, and that can't be a mile.
3/4,
Yeah,
whatever.
The reason I asked that is wondering what the demand would be with the existing facility we already have here to now build another, I think, 225 units. Is that necessary?
well, I know they still have a lot of empty ones.
So that's
Gateway,
kind of like my thought is, at this point, is that what we
But they also just opened about a month ago, 3 weeks or a month ago, they just opened up.
And we don't know what Bramble Brush is gonna bring for the need.
But there's certainly nothing that would stop self-storage units coming to our community. The question here is whether or not you want them in a business zone. And again, don't be looking at the concept plan, just saying to yourself, do you want it in a business zone?
Right. The concept plan means nothing.
Do you want it in Commerce Park
Just a
B?
concept.
Do you want it in Commerce Park transitional, subject to our regulations? It's there for the taking, but do you want it in in the business zone? That's
Right.
the only question we have.
Right.
Yeah, and so just a couple of points before you
Mhm.
open it up to the public. One, it was referred to CROG and we did get the referral back, just so it's in the record. Just for anyone who doesn't understand, they look at the impacts on adjacent municipalities. So their comments were there's no apparent conflict with the regional plans and policies or concerns for the neighboring towns. It was advertised legal notice in the Hartford Current. It was published on October 29th and November 5th, just also for the record. And then just to get to my staff report, I did give you a very in-depth staff report, and then I did update it because, as you're aware, we were going to open the public hearing in October. They saw my staff report. They made some amendments to the proposed text amendment. I basically just updated in red text what their updates were. Some of my comments still apply. Obviously, they added some additional standards about buffering and architectural standards, but overall, one of the things I indicated to you guys is you should be looking holistically at the business zone and also what you want, and to use John's term and the term in my staff report, which was the gateway property coming in. This is not property specific, so I don't want to confuse that matter, but there are two properties, one on each side of the road for that section of Route 20. That, you know, those businesses at any time could be changed. So whatever you potentially change this to, the property across the street could also take advantage of, and is affected by that. So that's related more to the truck parking. In regards to the self-storage use, I did point out that we did just open up that use in the transition zone. So you have to keep in mind, you know, how many of these do you want in town? You know, again, on these properties, there's the other section of the business zone along the Route 189 corridor. I can tell you that I had somebody come in even before this text amendment was proposed asking about self-storage facilities. So I just think maybe it's something people are interested in right now, but not, I don't know that how much of a market there really is for it to have it so many places in one small town.
Right.
So just things for you guys to consider as part of your review. And with that, I'll give it back to you to continue with the commission or the public.
Okay. Yeah, anybody on the commission have anything else they want to add? Anybody from the public want to make a comment? And again, just come up, state your name, where you live, and it's simply comment. It's not a discussion. We're not, you can say whatever you want. You just don't necessarily address things directly, a question to a commission or.
Okay. Yeah, no, Anthony Malucci, 5 Kirkstone, East Granby, also the owner of the new storage facility at 10 Connecticut Road
You
South.
look familiar.
So glad that I showed up to obviously state my concerns. I'm not opposed to any form of trucking, whatever that may be. Self-storage, I had to jump through hoops. We had to do special text amendments, etc. Get it over into Commerce A. I also wanted to be on Route 20, met with the town. It wasn't an option. I found a piece back in the Commerce Zone, still had to, like I said, adjust text amendments to even get it there. So it would be, you know, detrimental to our business where you go and you put one on Route 20 where they have roadside access. I have to fill out permits to get signage just for people to see where I am after I invested multi-millions into the town, and to allow them to come in, put one right on Route 20, essentially, and it's probably less than a half a mile from my facility. It almost is the entry to my facility. We currently are at 10% occupancy. We did just open, but the demand isn't there. The demand isn't there to fill 2 facilities. Never mind undercut a local facility that is locally run, operated by people who live in town, bring tax money, live here, kids go to school here, etc. Once again, bring in all the trucking you want. But if you want to buffer the trucking, we need retail. Use retail, put up a nice retail building. I'm sure that they're not opposed to that. But why bring in self-storage take out the small guy and obviously bring in just another box score with buffers. It's just a bad look for the gateway. So, like I said, I'm not opposed to the use of the property. Clearly, they park cars there now, but I'm obviously not looking to have a competitor outside of these guys coming to bring any sort of application, anybody in the future. Town's too small. Unless we get to a full occupancy where you need more storage, but it's just not there. We have Bramble Brush coming in. I know those guys, they have 160 units. Everything else, we've got competition in Granby, Simsbury, et cetera. You're gonna run yourself into a situation where you can't fill both facilities. One facility is gonna become vacant, and you're just gonna run into more commercial buildings that are empty and unoccupied. And you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna do with them. And you certainly don't want one on Route 20. So hopefully you guys obviously take it into consideration. Literally, we've been in business for a year. It's not like we've been there for 10. So we just opened to back me up with competition within a year. It doesn't look good in my opinion. So hopefully you guys take that into consideration.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Hold on, actually, one more. Sorry. I apologize. So I do have this, and Robin, I don't know if you took a look at this, but I grabbed this today. If you want to pass this around, interpret that the way you want, but the way that it states, I tried to do another sports facility in town over on the Mark's Auto project. And in order, when we went to a meeting, we incorporated in the text amendment that no sports facilities or storage facilities were allowed on Route 20 or a state highway. So that is in the regs, and that was taken care of 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And again, everybody should understand. We're
So just
talking
for the
about Commerce
record,
Parkway,
what's
and
being-
We're not talking about the property on.
Right. So just a couple of clarifications. What we're passing around from AJ is the approval. That's Commerce Park Transition Zone. And yes, we did limit it. Those uses cannot be on a state highway. So he is correct. This text amendment's for the business zone. Before you open it up to the public, we have comments on here. So we'll ask anyone who's commenting in the chat to not chat because it's a public hearing and we can't, it's not going to be made part of the record. So you'll have your chance to speak and make your concerns noted. But this is not a site plan or a special permit application. So while they did show conceptual plans, there are no comments on the conceptual plans. There were just to give somebody an idea of what it might look like if the uses were approved here. This is simply about a text amendment to allow these uses in the business zone. So if everyone can keep that in mind when they comment, this would be for any property in the business zone. So while I know their presentation really focused on their property, that's not what the focus for the commission is for.
Are we opening it up then to people that are online?
How would you like to do? Do you want to do the people in the room first, or do you want to do the people online just to kind of
Let's
keep it a
finish up
little?
with the room.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else in the room have a comment?
I think what John has said is completely accurate. We really don't want to turn Route 20 into a parking lot for tractor trailer trucks and storage facilities. I think that's probably our best piece of property right there and across the street from it. Those pieces should be looked at from a retail perspective. And Mr. Malucci has had to come off of Route 20 and go into the Business Park B zone. And he's done what everybody else should be doing if they want to use those type of facilities. So I don't think a text amendment is appropriate to allow this type of activity on our main drag. I agree with John Paul.
Anyone else? That is Republic. All right. The online. I don't know how you just like pick one or.
If someone wants to speak and you're online, if you can unmute yourself and just introduce yourself for the record and make your comments. I think we had someone chatting. I'm not sure that I can see the name. Stephen.
All right, bit of technical issues. Steve Mosier, Seneca Drive, East Granby. Just wanted to My comments are, I would disagree with the text amendment and the change of use of the premise. That's all I have time for at the moment, but thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom want to speak?
Just Robin, sorry, I guess waiting for the other residents to provide further comments. I'm just wondering if we'll have an opportunity to respond at all, or
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Look like there's anybody else.
Okay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for the members of the public that have raised some comments. I think the priority of this application is in response to some of the comments, and obviously we can't address, I think, everyone's based just wholly on some of them just entirely in disagreement with it. But the priority of the application is the truck parking. So if it would appeal to the commission, the proposed self-storage uses could be removed from the application, given some of the residents with the comments that have been raised. We do think that there is a demand for the truck parking in particular. My client's been approached by reputable names with interest on immediate use of the lands for this commercial property or commercial parking. And we think that the landscaping provisions that we're establishing with the use could be used to address some of the comments that I've seen in the chat and some of the comments that have been raised by the commission to screen that view into the site for truck parking from Rainbow Road. So just some of the thoughts that we had that we'd like to leave the commission with before we close, I guess, the public portion of the meeting.
Duly noted. If there are no other comments, we'll see anybody else there. I would take a motion to close public hearing.
Before you guys close, is there anything you want to talk about that hasn't been introduced yet, or any questions you have? Because once you close, you can't ask the applicant anything.
Right. I think I'm good. I have all the information.
You read in progress?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mentioned a bigger buffer where the residential areas are. I mean, it's a truck and Ford Explorer obviously make two different noises, and you can start a gasoline car and let it warm up for a minute and take off, or electric car, start it and drive away. Whereas trucks, I mean, I own a diesel. I don't own a big truck, but you got to let it warm up, take some time. They run for a little while. So I think that buffer is going to be important if the truck parking thing comes to play.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with Jay that needs to be a bigger buffer, and truckers, it's all all through the night too. It's not just when everyone's getting up to go to work. I mean, they can be starting their cars or their trucks at 2 a.m. and letting them run. It's right next to residential, so that would be a major concern.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second that.
Any discussion? Are we close? Everybody's good? All those in favor? Aye. Moving on to agenda item 4. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items anybody has on their mind? Moving down to number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Those in favor? Communications, we do have a number of communications. We have a communication from Robin. Do you want me to read this? 84, 824.
A memorandum?
Is that not the,
I'm not sure,
oh, wait a minute, that's not the 824.
That's incorrect.
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
One of them's incorrect.
There should be a zoning enforcement report from Mark.
That's great. Second paper.
He was,
This one?
Black at the top.
he was referring to this.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh,
That's
here we
not
go.
me.
Yep. Violations, 129 Newgate Bed and Breakfast being in use without special permit, 10 Hillcrest Bed and Breakfast were being used without a special permit. Both parties agreed to comply and file special permit. It's for tourist homes. I think we have one of those here tonight.
Yeah, one of them has submitted the receipt tonight and we'll schedule
Do I
the
need to
public
read
hearing.
this whole thing? This was, you answered it for me.
Oh, no, so just for reference, under my report, we did get communications from a resident, Sandy Landolina, asking questions about how the 8-24 referrals are dealt with. I did respond to her and explain to her that the commission members are not allowed to email members of the public directly. So I did give her referral was and what role the commission plays in land sales for municipal land sales. So you do have a copy of that with my response.
And what else do we have? Public hearing will take place in, I don't need to read these, do I?
You do.
Yeah, but you should be on the CROG meeting, regional meeting report. I don't know if anybody recently went to that for communications.
I was not able to go to that meeting, no.
Oh, this is what I was talking about before.
That's for your 8-24 referral, which
Yeah.
is further down.
Right, so I don't need to read that as.
No.
Okay, all communications, old business. Draft Commerce Park Transitional Zone changes updated.
Yeah, so
That was all of this.
picking up, no changes from our last meeting, but what I did do is provide you guys with the headline version that we worked with during the meeting. And then I accepted all of the changes, so you guys had what I will call a clean version, a more easily read version, for you guys to do sort of a final sweep through if there's anything you wanted to discuss or make changes to before we move it forward.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar. Okay, then moving down to new business.
Does anyone have anything before we move down to new? I know no one spoke, but I just want to make sure because I do have as new business referring this off to set a public hearing. So if there was anything anyone read over and was like, hey, let's take a look at this, I know now, so we can make sure it's sort of finalized.
If we go off the public hearing on, hey, there's comments
Sure.
from the public. or if there's
Absolutely.
Change in part from anybody, they can certainly.
That's right.
At that point. But having gone through this now, is this our third read on it?
I think it's like
I
our
think it's
third
third or
read.
fourth read.
Yeah.
And, as long as it reflects the changes that we had at our
Yep.
last meeting, because I thought at our last,
Yeah,
well, the
we
last
went
time
through
we
that pretty
discussed
deep.
this, I thought we had reached consensus on. pretty
We
much
did. I
everything.
just wanted to make sure everyone saw sort of a clean version and there was nothing that jumped out at you. So, okay.
I do have a little note, just
Yeah.
with the CROG meeting. The next one is on November 21st. I plan on going to that one. So whatever communications we have from that meeting, I'll just bring to next meeting.
Okay, now you can go. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Feel free to interrupt
Excited.
at any time. New business.
Yes, I do.
The EDC 2411 Corbett Land Crossing Incorporated application for text amendment change to 5824J, 5824K to the special permit use. So truck parking and self-storage. Can I get an application, or I mean, a motion to accept this application?
I make a motion to approve text amendment to section 5A2 4J
Mhm.
and 5A4K, the special permit uses in the business zone.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I'll quickly just state for the record that that it's the commission's practice to make motions in the affirmative. I think my comments from earlier, I hope, still stay in the room. Thank you.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving this application, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion doesn't pass. Dropping down to B, under new business, B 2413, the text amendment Commerce Park Transition Zone changes.
I would just like to set the public hearing for our next meeting, which I believe is December
December
10th.
10th.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we don't need to vote on that or anything, do we?
Well, you don't have to.
No. Voting. Enough voting for the last couple of weeks. Okay, so C, this 824 referral on the town.
Nope. There's one more receipt.
Which one did I miss?
PZC 24-14, Pamela and Russell Martin, 10 Hillcrest Drive.
I don't have that.
Flip it.
Yeah.
Did it not come over?
No,
No, there's right here.
I don't have a 14. No. Not on my agenda. Oh, wait a minute. Agenda.
You printed it yourself?
Oh, it's not on this one either.
We don't
Oh,
have
yes, it is.
149 Newgate yet.
Yeah, it is.
It's on there.
Not on that
Let me
one.
see. I don't believe you.
Yeah, I know, but the,
Oh, it didn't show up.
Oh, it's
That's
that
weird.
invisible ink.
I cut and pasted. I swear it did. So this application is to basically get approved the tourist home, which is operating out of 10 Hillcrest Drive. So ARC did reach out to the owners. They did come in. They did request the special permit. So we do have that application. So it's just a matter of setting the public hearing.
So we're just receiving that.
You're just receiving it, and I would recommend again setting the public hearing for the December meeting if that's good with everybody.
Okay. Okay, now,
Now you can go down.
I'm sorry, real
so
quick.
this is
Yes.
E. Wait a minute, and you had A, B, C, E?
That was her. I don't do the agenda, so don't pick on me.
I did it.
Yes, Jay?
129 Newgate has not, come to light at all.
So they brought in their application today, which by statute means it's not technically received until your next meeting. So it has to be in at least 24 hours in advance in order for it to be considered
Okay.
Okay,
tonight on the agenda, because it was brought in today.
they are.
They're a player.
Yes, they did bring in an application. You will officially receive it in December. We'll set the public hearing for January, but unfortunately we could not do that because it came in today.
Okay. So regarding the D,
Yes.
824 referral on property sales, I have a information on that. You want to read this whole thing? Or just jump right into it? Referencing 824 referral sale for the sale of town property referral from the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen has requested the Planning and Zoning Commission provide them with an 824 referral report regarding the consistency of the proposed land sales with the plan of conservation and development. In reviewing the town's most recent plan of conservation and development dated, well, 2014, but adopted in 2016, there is no mention of town parcels, and there is no inventory of town parcels and their uses. With the lack of this information, staff reviewed the POCD for stated goals and policies under all chapter sections. After reviewing these sections and with no direct verbiage regarding town parcels, leases, or sales, or even an inventory with current and long-term uses, staff can only offer that the proposed land sales are not inconsistent with any stated goal or policy in the POCD and are not in conflict with any stated goal or policy.
So just to
So we're
back up, because I know some of you stated you haven't seen an I-24 referral, and as I indicated, when I searched our planning and zoning records, the last one I came up with was 2005. So it seems to be quite some time ago. This is not an application to you guys. This is simply a referral. And the purpose is for you guys to basically say whether it's consistent or not consistent with the POCD. As you can tell from my memorandum, it's a little difficult to do in this particular case because there's not a lot in the POCD for me to look at, and there was no list of town properties and their uses, which is in the POCD quite often. So it's
we can make a motion that it is not inconsistent.
You could make that.
current POCD.
You could, yes.
Okay.
You guys have to come to the conclusion on your own. I just did the legwork in reviewing the POCD for standard things I would look for as your planner to be able to guide you based on what's in the POCD. As indicated, normally, yeah, I mean, normally there is, if you have leased land, there would be a list of your leased land and what it's being used for. So there's just not in that for me to lend myself to give you that information. But I did go through the chapters we do have to make sure that there wasn't anything inconsistent with the proposals that were there. And there wasn't. Normally, I would like you guys to say it is consistent with the POCD, but I struggle with that because there's nothing in the POCD to say it's consistent with the POCD. It's a little bit of a strange kind of nuance in this particular case.
What was the 2005 parcel, or was that specific to a property, or?
Yeah,
The 2005 was specific to a library, I believe it was, being sold on School Street.
Oh, yeah, right, when they turned into the daycare.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot about that.
Yep.
I think we were there for that, John.
And then there was another one about the widening of Route 20 to 4 lanes in certain
I think
areas
John and
by
I were.
DOT.
I was there.
Yeah. So those were the only two that I found.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to, I guess, make a motion that the 824 referral is not inconsistent with the POCD.
Yeah, can you, I'm sorry, just Robin, if you
Yeah.
could you just read pertinent section of 824, just so everyone's clear what it is that it's the responsibility of the planning and zoning commission to do?
Let me read the statute for you.
Yeah. we could
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
because I know there's gonna be people that are gonna say, you guys didn't talk about it, and all,
Not a
Read the
problem.
whole thing about it.
no.
No, he's talked about
There's,
that.
there's other issues that people might have and might be concerned with, and I want to put it on the record that the 824 is strictly
Yes.
a statutory review.
Yep.
We're not taking any kind of action, and I want the
Yeah.
exact language, just so
Absolutely.
everyone, so the public knows that we're not endorsing, we're not
Right.
doing anything of the like. All we're saying is that we've met the criteria of the
Yeah.
824.
824.
Yep, that's it.
So I'll read it.
Confirming the POCD, that's it.
Yep, so I'll read into
Exactly.
the, I'll read
You're
into the record. So first of all, it falls under the planning statutes. It's not under the zoning enabling act. 8-24 municipal improvements, which is why it's called an 8-24 referral. No municipal agency or legislative body shall locate, accept, abandon, widen, narrow, or extend any street, bridge, parkway, or other public way to locate, relocate, substantially improve, acquire land for, abandon, sell, or lease any airport, park, playground, school, or other municipally owned property or public building. 3, locate or extend any public housing, development, redevelopment, or urban renewal project. 4, locate or extend public utilities or terminals for water, sewage, light, power, transit, and other purposes until the proposal to take such action has been referred to the commission for a report. Do you want me to read the whole legislative body thing in, or does that cover it? Okay.
No filibuster.
I still haven't eaten dinner. Did I get a second?
I'll second.
You made the motion.
I made a motion.
Inconsistent.
We have discussion.
I don't know what we're moving on because we don't take action.
Well, yeah.
It's just a report. I think you guys
We
just have to
We just,
Agree that we,
agree on the findings, because if you didn't agree on the findings,
there
then,
would be a problem.
well, you could take no action and then that essentially becomes an approval.
So no matter what we do, it doesn't.
We're still taking no
It's
action.
one of these weird, I told you before
It's
the
an
meeting, it's like a
exercise in
weird,
futility.
yeah,
Yes, okay.
nuance type things. I mean, sometimes
This is
it's
how I
very
look at
explicit.
Based on the current P O C D and what we have, this is consistent with what is there.
But it's
It's not
not
inconsistent with what's there, because
That's
there's,
exactly what I said.
It's not.
no, there is a little bit of a difference there, because
No,
there's nothing for
Listen,
it to
we
be
could be
consistent
here all
to.
night.
You
I
can't
know.
have two negatives.
So in that,
You can't have not.
okay, but as agree, we don't really.
Verbiage.
well, you throw in the,
We vote.
you throw in the fact that the town of East Granby is exempt from its own zoning regulations.
Right,
Under 8-2, so, you know.
yes.
Well, then,
Someone seconded already.
Yeah, me.
So your motion was that it is not inconsistent
not
with the stated
inconsistent.
goals and policies. Okay. And Jay, you seconded it, just for
So-
the record, because poor Michelle's trying to keep track over here.
Wait, all those, hang on.
Don't
hang
do
on,
it in
hang
pen
on.
next
Hold
time.
up, hold up.
I feel like we should be on some kind of show, like this is a spoof or something right now.
Parks and Rec.
Perfect.
It's gonna be a really short report I'm gonna write to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Okay, you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
All those in favor?
Aye.
opposed.
Opposed?
It's really not,
Abstention?
Abstain.
okay.
I don't think it's necessary
It's
for us
not really.
to take any kind of action on any kind of motion.
In that case, can I get a motion for
I
adjournment?
would move for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn this.
I would vote
Second. All those in favor? Aye, motion is adjourned.
I want to change up.